And hello again today from New York City. We're coming to you from Studio F, our brand new election headquarters here at Fox, where just 2 days from now we'll be reporting the results as America decides who will be the next president of the United States. In a few minutes, we'll speak exclusively with Donald Trump's running mate, Governor Mike Pence, and Hillary Clinton's top strategist, Joel Benenson. John.
Good morning to you, Chris. Yes, the Real Clear Politics average of polls shows that Donald Trump has a lead of about 3 points here in the state. A Des Moines registered poll has him up by 7. Some tense moments last night in Reno when the Secret Service, for the second time in this campaign, leapt on stage to protect the candidate. Remember, it happened back in March in Dayton. The situation here, they actually whisked him off the stage after somebody at the front of the crowd started yelling gun. Trump was off the stage for a few minutes, but returned shortly thereafter, appearing none the worse for wear.
We will never be stopped. Never, ever be stopped. I want to thank the Secret Service. These guys are fantastic.
John Roberts reporting from Iowa. John, thanks for that. Joining me now from another battleground state, Virginia, is Trump's running mate, Indiana Governor Mike Pence. Governor, it's all about the numbers now, and let's take a look at them. In the latest Real Clear Politics average of national polls, Trump is down 2 points to Clinton, and you're losing narrowly in some key swing states, down just over a point in Florida, down 2.5 points in Pennsylvania, up less than a point in North Carolina. There's no question that Trump and you have tightened the race, but the fact is you're still losing. And the question is, how do you go over the top? What do you do in terms of specifically who, which states, where to go over the top in these final 48 hours?
Well, I'll tell you what, our secret weapon is the American people who are saying enough is enough. I mean, I was here at a rally last night in Virginia. We had an overflow crowd that was bigger than some of the rallies that I've seen out on the campaign trail over the last several months as I've campaigned for Donald Trump. And of course, you see the tens of thousands of people coming out with Donald Trump. He'll have 5 rallies a day, today and tomorrow, all across this country. We're taking a message to make America great again all across this country. And I think literally by the hour, the American people are recognizing that this election is a choice between change and the status quo. It's between a stronger, more prosperous America with Donald Trump and in Hillary Clinton, someone who will continue the same failed policies that have weakened America at home and abroad. And we just feel tremendous momentum. This campaign is on offense, and I couldn't be more excited.
I do want to get to some specifics, though. Hispanics are voting early in big numbers in a number of states, Florida, North Carolina, Arizona, Nevada. Are you worried that the polarizing remarks that your running mate, Donald Trump, has made since his opening announcement may come back to beat him?
Well, I'm really not. I mean, the truth is that Hispanic Americans have the same concerns that every other American does, that we want to get this economy moving again. We want our country to be safe. I was just down in Miami this last weekend, saw overwhelming support for Donald Trump's strong stand for freedom in this hemisphere, standing strongly against what the Obama administration and Hillary Clinton want to continue to do.
So you think all those Hispanics, sir, are coming out to vote for Trump and not for Clinton? Really?
No, I'm saying that the American people want change, and that's Americans coming from every category. I literally saw it. I stopped by and had some Cuban coffee at a classic stop in Miami, and Karen and I had a hard time getting through the place with people that were enthusiastic about Donald Trump's stand for a stronger America at home and abroad, getting this economy moving again, and repealing Obamacare. I talked to leaders in that community who are feeling the crushing weight of Obamacare. 25% increases in the premiums of Obamacare, Chris, in Florida and all across the United States of America. The American people know we can do better. It's going to take change in Washington, D.C., and I really do believe that's why you're seeing people from all across the spectrum, Republicans, independents, many Democrats, and people literally from every community in this country rallying behind Donald Trump more and more by the hour.
Trump has been arguing that if Clinton wins, that she faces a criminal investigation and an indictment. And here he is on the campaign trail. Take a look.
If she were to win, it would create an unprecedented constitutional crisis. What a mess. I mean, we went through it with him with the impeachment and the lies. Aren't we tired of this stuff?
But Governor, Trump has no hard evidence that she's going to face an indictment. I mean, that's overstatement.
Well, Hillary Clinton and her foundation are under a current investigation by the FBI. We just found out this morning that she had her maid print off classified information, according to revelations in the New York Post. I mean, Chris, the American people know no one is above the law. We commend the FBI for following the facts and reopening the investigation. But I think this is part of the way the American people need to count the costs in this election. Do we want more of the fast and loose ethics of the Clintons over the last 30 years, or do we want a clean break? Do we want to drain the swamp in Washington, D.C., have fundamental ethics reform, and rebuild our military, revive our economy, repeal Obamacare, and have appointments to the Supreme Court that will uphold our Constitution? This is all part of the equation that I think explains why you see such tremendous momentum in this campaign and why our campaign is literally expanding the map. We're on offense, and the Clinton campaign is literally on defense, trying to shore up blue states around the country in the waning days of the campaign.
Speaking of criminal investigations and draining the swamp, two of Governor Chris Christie's top aides were convicted of fraud and conspiracy Friday in the Bridgegate case. And given the fact that there was repeated testimony in that trial that Christie knew all about the effort to close the lanes to the George Washington Bridge to punish a political opponent, are you comfortable with Christie as the chairman of the Trump transition team if he's elected?
Well, what I would tell you is Chris Christie has continued to strongly state his position that he had no knowledge of those actions taken, and frankly, as he said late in the week, that what those convictions proved is that he was right to immediately fire those people for the actions that they'd taken. But look, all of our focus is on Election Day, I promise you, and we're grateful for Chris Christie's role in the campaign, and we're going to all keep our head down and work hard to bring
Governor,
home a great victory for the American people.
No chance that he'll be replaced after the election? I mean, you're standing by Chris Christie despite all this evidence?
Look, there's no changes in personnel here in the waning days of the campaign. We're 100% focused on bringing home a great victory for the American people. And Republicans are coming together, Chris. I was yesterday with Speaker Paul Ryan in Wisconsin. A couple days before, I was with Governor Doug Ducey in Arizona. Last night here in Virginia with Ed Gillespie. Republicans are coming home and recognizing that we need to elect Donald Trump as the next president, re-elect a strong Republican majority, and Republicans are coming home with independents and Democrats at their side to make sure that Hillary Clinton is never elected president of the United States. The momentum is palpable out there, and I'm looking forward to jumping on a plane headed to Florida, North Carolina, and New Hampshire today. Donald Trump is literally everywhere.
Let me ask you one final question, if I may. This has been a divisive and negative campaign. You talk about the party coming together. I want to ask you about the country coming together.
Yeah.
I think you'd agree one of the strengths of our democracy is when the election's over, no matter how ugly, the loser graciously concedes to the winner, and we all rally round the new president, whoever that turns out to be. Donald Trump has said different things at different times, so I want you to clear this up for us. Can you guarantee that if there is a clear winner on election night, and if, and I repeat if, I know you're going to say, well, he's going to win, but if Donald Trump should be the loser, can you guarantee that he will concede to Hillary Clinton and accept the result of the election and the judgment of the American people?
Well, thanks for anticipating my answer. I think Donald Trump is going to win this election, and he'll be more than happy to accept the results.
I'd like you not to duck it.
But look,
can you guarantee that he will put this behind us, sir? Can you guarantee he'll put this behind us and accept the result?
Yeah, the campaign's made it very clear that a clear outcome. Obviously, both sides will accept, but I think both campaigns have also been very clear that, you know, in the event of disputed results, they reserve all legal rights and remedies. But the truth is that this is such an exciting time in the life of our country. The way this country is going to come together is when we deliver the change that the American people long to see. When we rebuild our military, we're standing tall in the world. When we revive our economy, when we have a Supreme Court that upholds our liberty, and we see America growing and prospering again.
Governor?
When we see America great again, America is going to be united, and we're going to move our nation forward.
Governor Pence, thank you. Thanks for your time, especially in this final weekend. And safe travels on the campaign trail in these last 48 hours, sir.
Thank you, Chris.
Coming up, Hillary Clinton's top strategist, Joel Benenson, is here in Studio F. And we'll check in with Bill Hemmer upstairs on the data deck with a look at the possible paths to the all-important 270 electoral votes. As Fox News Sunday reports live from America's election headquarters. And we're back at Fox News election headquarters in New York City. As the polls tighten just hours before Election Day, Hillary Clinton is fighting off Donald Trump's late charge. Joining me now is Clinton's top strategist, Joel Benenson. And Joel, welcome back to Fox News Sunday.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
As I pointed out to Mike Pence, while they've tightened the race, they're still losing, the Trump side is. But there are some numbers out there that are troubling to your side, and I want to ask you about those. In the latest Fox poll, 71% of Trump voters strongly support him versus 65% of Clinton voters. 63% of Trump supporters are extremely interested in the race. For Clinton, it's 54%. And after news of the FBI investigation, 21% of the independents are less likely to vote for Clinton. Joel, there seems to be an enthusiasm gap, and the FBI investigation seems to be hurting Clinton.
No, I think there are a lot of ways to measure enthusiasm. You know, there's also a Washington Post poll, when they've been tracking numbers historically, 56% of Hillary Clinton's voters saying they're voting for her as opposed to against her opponent, kind of on par with people like Al Gore and George Bush, Bill Clinton in 96. That same poll shows Donald Trump at 41%. That is historically and significantly lower than most presidential candidates.
Do you think the FBI announcement, now a week and a half old, has hurt Clinton?
No, I don't. I think it obviously occupied a lot of airspace, but I think, you know, we've been knocking on doors. We have had lines all weekend at our phone banks of people waiting to get in. We've knocked on 2 million doors this weekend. And I think where you're seeing the enthusiasm is in the early vote. Our people are going out to vote where the early vote, you know, is going on. States like Florida, states like Nevada, very strong numbers, and not just with, you know, our base Democratic voters, but we think we're seeing a surge with suburban women, younger people, millennials, broadening our coalition.
Okay. Having said all of that, Clinton has changed her game plan these last few days. I always say the most precious commodity in the last week of the campaign is the candidate's time. She went to Detroit to campaign on Friday, which is somewhat surprising. She's going back there again to Michigan, to Grand Rapids on Monday. You're now running TV ads in Virginia and Colorado and New Mexico. Those were all states that were off the board for Trump 2 weeks ago.
Well, here's going to Michigan, by the way, is very consistent with our plan, because Michigan is one of the states we call game day states. No early voting. We have to make sure we get there in the last few days, keep people ginned up, getting them out to vote. And that's what you're seeing in some of these states. In terms of ads in states like Virginia and Colorado, where we do feel we've got a winning margin there, we've had actually in the last 2 weeks a surge of resources. Things have opened up for us. More money's coming in. Our digital fundraising's been great. People are supporting the campaign, and we're going to put those to work, because our job here is every state we make harder for Donald Trump to win makes his path narrower and narrower. We've always wanted to be in a position, Chris, where we're not trying to thread a needle. We're not drawing to an inside straight. And so we're playing offense in all of our states.
Well, let's talk about that, because you heard me ask Mike Pence,
sure,
how does he get over the top? And let's go up to the data deck up on the second floor here in our election headquarters, where Bill Hemmer is standing by to show us a possible Trump path to 270. And then, Joe, will come back and talk to you on the other side.
Chris, hello. And it's the mezzanine level, and we've supersized the billboard this year for 2016. You see all the states in gray on the map. Those are the states where it's too close to call, the battleground battleground states that we believe as of today, that's where the election stands. Go back 4 years ago when Mitt Romney lost to Barack Obama. Romney flipped 2 states that year. He made Indiana Republican again, so too in North Carolina. If you assume that Trump, at a minimum, has to hold all the Romney states, this is what it could look like. 16 electoral votes in Georgia. It's 11 in Arizona. It's 15 in North Carolina. And late on Friday, the Trump team tells me they feel very good about where they are in North Carolina. More on that in a moment. He'd have to flip the 6 in Iowa. He'd have to flip 18 in Ohio, 29 in Florida. And still under this scenario, he is 11 electoral votes short. So where does he go? If he were to win Pennsylvania, that would make him president. If he were to win Michigan, that would make him president. If he were to win a combination of, say, New Hampshire and Colorado, that would do it. Or New Hampshire and perhaps Nevada would get him very close at 269 under that particular map. However, if the Clinton team finds success on the East Coast, maybe in Florida, which could be deadly for the Trump team, or possibly turning North Carolina blue again, you start to see the challenge for Trump as he drops down to 244 electoral votes. That means under that scenario, he would have to win Pennsylvania and somewhere else. He would have to win a Michigan and somewhere else. 2 states, by the way, that have not gone Republican in 28 years. The point is, on all this, there's a number of different options that you can map out and game for Tuesday night. Trump, it's not impossible. He has a number of ways that he can do it, but it's much more difficult. As it stands today, Chris, it is much easier for Hillary Clinton based on the map that we're watching. Back to you.
Bill, thank you. Well, you heard about possible paths, and all of them are difficult. He's kind of, you talked about the political equivalent of drawing to the inside straight. He kind of has to do it. Where are the big kinks in that scenario?
In his scenario?
Yeah.
Pennsylvania. Starts with Pennsylvania, number 1. Pennsylvania is a strong state for us. We're going to be spending time there, as Bill pointed out, solidly Democratic for 6 elections or so. Because if he doesn't win there, he has to win all 4 of the big other states that Bill just talked about: Ohio, Florida, North Carolina, Michigan. He's not in a position to win all 4 of those. He just isn't. I think that some of these are close, no question about it. He, I think, described the scenario I did is, you know, it's not over till the fat lady sings, as they say, right? And but we're going into Election Day playing offense, keeping them on defense with states like Arizona that we never played in before, not in either of the Obama elections. So we feel good when we're on offense. We think we're in good shape. And I think it's because voters around the country are really rejecting the divisive rhetoric that they've heard from Donald Trump throughout this campaign.
Okay. That is the concern for Trump. The concern for the Clinton camp is the honesty and trustworthiness factor. And obviously the renewed FBI investigation is an issue. And I want to discuss that with you for a moment. Back in March of 2015, Hillary Clinton told the country that she had turned over all of her work-related emails to the State Department. Here she is.
I responded right away and provided all my emails that could possibly be work-related, which totaled roughly 55,000 printed pages.
But the week before, a Clinton advisor sent out this email: if there is a release of the 55,000, are there others that are not being released? And here was your answer, Joel: definitely. Now, Clinton.
Actually, Chris, the definitely wasn't to that. There's a string of emails there, and it was saying the previous email that we should release all the emails. I was saying definitely. There was an interspersed email in there. I was responding to the previous one that said definitely.
Well, why didn't they release all the emails?
Well, I think they released all the ones they believed they had at the time. I think during the course of the process, and Director Comey said there may be some others, and if there are, they'll find them and be turned over. But let me go back to your fundamental question here. You raised the question of trust, and I apologize for bringing up a Washington Post ABC poll, but they asked which one of these 2 people has stronger moral character. And by 46 to 38 voters, an 8-point spread,
well, as you know,
Hillary Clinton was perceived.
It depends on the question that's asked.
Well, it was. But stronger moral character is a pretty standard test for President of the United States as well. And I think people are looking at these 2 people, and we have an 8-point advantage there. And people are looking at this through the prism of, who are these 2 people? What have they both done in their lives that will make me count on them, trust them?
I got that, but I want to ask you a question about the emails, because
Because you've never asked me before. No, go ahead.
Well, I haven't asked you often about the emails. The argument that she made and that the campaign has made that all of the deleted emails were personal. They were about her yoga, about Chelsea's wedding. Question I have for you is, were emails about the Clinton Foundation considered personal, and were they deleted?
Chris, I'm not sure how they were considered. What I know is that who's ever looking at all the emails has been looking at it for years. 15 months, almost a year and a half now, right? They've said they're going to look at any other emails that come up and let them make a judgment. When Director Comey spoke, he had no access to other emails. He hasn't seen them. He went out on a limb. He's been criticized by both Democratic and Republican former law enforcement officials who said this was inappropriate to do at this point, particularly when he had no facts and no information. Look, I think that voters are going to go to the polls 2 days from now. They're going to factor all this information in. They're going to make the decision on which one of these people will really make America the kind of country they want to have.
Okay, one last question. In February of 2015, there were reports that foreign donations to the Clinton Foundation were on the rise, and that resulted in a string of emails again that I want to talk about. Here was your recommendation about foreign government donations to the Clinton Foundation. Stop taking foreign government money. Is that possible? If not, we're going to be very vulnerable on that throughout. And I think our opponents and some on our side will say it is unseemly for a potential U.S. president taking money from foreign governments for her private foundation. Joel, you knew this was a problem, but as we sit here today, the Clinton Foundation continues to take money from foreign governments.
Well, two things. One, I'm not going to authenticate any of these emails that we know were hacked through Russian interference.
Okay.
What the Clintons have said is they have announced the steps they will take if Hillary Clinton is elected president. They are very clear.
You were saying this in 2015.
Foundation,
why not?
Foundation, because this foundation helps millions of people around the world. President Clinton has put to work at that foundation what he learned as president with 11 million people on life-saving AIDS drugs.
So you don't think it's unseemly?
I think that the Clintons have announced what steps they would take if she is elected on Tuesday, which I believe she will be, about the steps they will take to change the way the foundation will operate if she's president of the United States. What they don't want to happen is for millions of people who are being saved with life-saving drugs, kids getting better food in schools.
But that was still true. That was still true in 2015, and you called it unseemly.
Well, I said I'm not going to authenticate any of these emails that were hacked by Russians. I'm going to talk about what the foundation has done and how they've addressed what they will do going forward.
Joel, thank you. Thanks for coming in today. Always good to talk with you.
Good to see you, Chris.
Up next, we'll bring in our Sunday group to discuss what we should be looking for in these final hours of campaign 2016. Much more to come from Fox News election headquarters. Here's a look at what we call the chandelier. We'll be making race calls throughout election night. We'll be right back.
Stay on point, Donald. Stay on point. No sidetracks, Donald. Nice and easy. Nice.
His campaign probably put that in the teleprompter. Stay on point, Donald. Stay on point.
In these final days of the campaign, Donald Trump giving himself a pep talk and Hillary Clinton making fun of it. And it's time now for our Sunday group. GOP strategist Karl Rove, Bob Woodward of the Washington Post, Dana Perino, co-host of The Five, and I'll Tell You What, and the hardest working woman in show business is also the author of the new book, Let Me Tell You About Jasper, and Fox News political analyst Juan Williams. Well, Karl, you've looked at all the polls, you've crunched the numbers on early voting, you've explored all the paths to 270. Where is this race now?
Donald Trump leads in the Mitt Romney states with 206 electoral college votes, albeit in one of those states, North Carolina, by only a point. But he also leads in Ohio, Nevada, New Hampshire, and Iowa. If he gets there, it's 240 electoral votes, still short of the 270, but within striking distance. 29 electoral votes up in Florida. Today, she leads by one, but Republicans have had good numbers in early voting there. They're down only 7,000 in the early voting. 4 years ago, when Barack Obama won the state by 74,000, they were down 104,000 at the end of early voting. So Florida is very much up for grabs. I thought it was interesting that when you asked Joel Benenson about the most important states, he said Pennsylvania, not Florida. That seems to me that might be an indication that they're concerned about Florida. It is very much up for grabs, and the signal in the early voting points to a narrow Trump victory there.
One, what's your sense? Is Trump as close as Carl says? Is this race slipping away for Clinton?
I don't know if it's slipping away, but I think that if you looked a week ago, it was more like 5 to 6 percentage point in the national polls. This morning, Wall Street Journal has her up 4, ABC, Washington Post has her 5, Fox News Channel, our polling has her up 2. So what you see is that it has tightened. But most of the tightening has been a result of Republican consolidation of their vote. Republicans previously were about 70%, 75, 80%. Now they're up to 85% behind Donald Trump. I think obviously people like Paul Ryan, the speaker, Ted Cruz, his former rival and bitter rival, have now decided they're voting for Donald Trump. I think that's a signal, despite, their concern about lack of qualifications, character, whatever. So at the moment you have it like, she is in a position where most Americans, according to the Fox poll, think she's going to win 56%. Only a third, 35%, think he'll win. And the difference at this juncture, I think, is ground game. She really has a ground game. I don't think anybody thinks he has a sufficient ground game to push the numbers 1 or 2 points at the very end.
I want to turn to one of the biggest developments over these last 10 days, and that was FBI Director Comey's shocking announcement that he's reopening the criminal investigation into Hillary Clinton and the emails. Now, the White House said that President Obama wasn't going to weigh in on whether this was a good idea or not, and then President Obama did weigh in. Here he is.
I do think that there is a norm that when there are investigations, we don't operate on innuendo, we don't operate on incomplete information, we don't operate on leaks.
Bob Woodward, as someone who has been reporting on the FBI since Watergate, what do you think of the role that the FBI and the Justice Department, and apparently a lot of leaks and a kind of a war between the two agencies, of their role this last 10 days?
I think it will be many months or years before we really unravel what happened in this. But what Director Comey did is extraordinary, both times. Back in July, saying that she would not be charged. An old FBI hand, one of the iconic figures, told me the other day he thinks that's the first time the FBI made a prosecutorial decision. Normally, it's the Justice Department that does this. So it's a big deal. I don't know whether it changes the race. I mean, the numbers that Carl has are pretty convincing. I think the question to kind of ask is, if Trump does win, how is that possible? What's been missed? And I think I find in travels around the country, talking to groups from Texas to Florida to New York, people don't trust the polls. And they look at voting as much more personal. They don't like the idea, oh, I'm in a demographic group, so I'm going to go this way. They want to decide themselves. And so there are people in demographic groups who will say, no, I'm not going with my group.
So you think they're lying?
I think...
lying to the pollsters.
I think that's quite possible. I think also that you do all this by landline or cell phone. What sort of data do you get? I mean, even the New York Times today is saying the possibility of Trump winning is real. So why are people hedging? Because they're unsure, aren't they?
Let me bring in Dana and your thoughts. One, about the state of the race, and two, the FBI role. What do you think of it? And do you think it has hurt, whether you like it or not, do you think it has hurt Clinton?
Well, I think that it reaffirmed pre-existing beliefs about Hillary Clinton. So if you weren't going to vote for her and you thought she was dishonest, that reaffirmed it, and you might even be more encouraged to vote for it. And I think that that has happened at the same time, as Juan was saying, the Republicans said, all right, we might not think this is the best candidate we could have had, but by gosh, we're going to go out and vote for him because that's what Republicans do. On the other side, I agree with Bob. I think it could take years to find out what happened at the FBI, but whoever wins the presidency has got to figure out a way to reassure Americans and restore confidence in the FBI, because while they're doing this, they also have said in the past year, James Comey, the director, said they have 50 states that they're looking at with open investigations with ISIS terrorist related things. So they have things to do. I think that two things might happen. Republicans have been trying to get Pennsylvania for a long time, and it's always the one that got away.
Right.
Wisconsin's in that category as well. That's right. And for Democrats, I think that they still believe that Georgia and Arizona are the two, and I think they're actually probably going to end up with Republicans not winning in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and Democrats not winning in Georgia or Arizona.
Carl, I got about a minute left in this segment, and I want to go back to the narrative this weekend, and that is that the Hispanic vote is coming out in unusually large numbers, and the assumption is because of Trump's very polarizing remarks since his announcement that they're voting against him and for Hillary Clinton, and could be the deciding factor.
Yeah, that's half the important narrative. What we're also seeing is a decline in the African-American turnout. We're seeing it, for example, in Florida and North Carolina, where it is down. The African-American turnout down in those states, Hispanic turnout up. The problem for the Democrats is every time they lose 1% of Democratic turnout among African-Americans, they lose about 0.9 of a point of support because they vote 90% plus for Democrats. Every time they gain a percentage point among Hispanics, they gain about 0.7 of a percent. So for the Democrats, they're hoping Hispanic turnout is rising significantly more than Democratic turnout is dropping among African Americans. Let me make one more point. Pennsylvania, there have been 42 polls since October of 2015. Donald Trump has not led in a single one. 16 polls since the end of September in Colorado, not led in a single one. Michigan, 37 polls since October of last year, hasn't led in a single one. He got an uphill climb here at the end. I can see him getting to 240, but after that, it's going to be a tough slog.
And let me tell you, he speaks as somebody who tried for Pennsylvania over and over.
It broke my heart twice. Broke my heart twice.
All right, we have to take a break here. Up next, we'll break down the battle for control of the Senate and what happens on Wednesday. Can we put this ugly election behind us? Plus, what would you like to ask the panel about whether the country will rally around our new president, whoever he or she is? Just go to Facebook or Twitter at Fox News Sunday, and we may use your question on the air.
Very excited. There are just 3 days left in this most consequential election. Are you ready?
I'm asking you to dream big because your vote, think of this, we are just 3 days away. Do you believe it?
And now we're just 2 days away. Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump making their closing arguments to voters in these final hours before Election Day. And we're back now with the panel. Well, it's not just the White House that's at stake on election night, also control of the Senate. And the fact is that the Democrats need a net pickup of 5 seats or 4 seats, plus Vice President Tim Kaine to break any ties to take control. We have our resident Senate watcher, Karl Rove. What's it look like for you, and what are the key states you're going to be looking at?
Well, look, I think it's going to come down. The Republicans, I think, are going to bank 5 seats that they need, and it's going to come down to winning 2 out of the remaining seats. The 3 best shots are going to be.
You mean the Democrats are going to bank?
No, the Republicans are going to bank 5 seats.
Okay.
Arizona, Ohio, Florida, Missouri, and Indiana, and
right.
That'll get them to 49. And the question is, how do they get to 51? And the 3 best shots they've got, and they got to take 2 out of 3, are first North Carolina, Richard Burr versus Deborah Ross. Burr leads by 1.5 in Real Clear Politics. Interesting to watch early vote. Democrats, as of Friday evening, 12,000 fewer Democrat early votes than in 2012. Republicans, 151,000 more. This is in a state Romney won by 94,000.
All right, real quickly, Burr is the incumbent. That's a Republican seat, so the key is, can he hold on?
Can he hold on to all 3 of these are holding on? Excuse me, two of them are holding on. The second one is New Hampshire, Kelly Ayotte versus Maggie Hassan. Ayotte, the incumbent Republican, Hassan, the Democratic governor. Ayotte is up 2.4 points. She's led in 7 of the last 10 polls in October. This will be the most expensive per capita Senate race in the history of America. $120 million will be spent.
And again, that's a Republican seat that they're trying to hold on to.
They've got to hold.
And then there's one seat that's a Democrat seat. Harry Reid, the majority leader, is retiring, and Nevada's that.
Yeah, Republican Congressman Joe Heck versus former Attorney General Mastow. Heck leads by 1.4 in the Real Clear Politics average. He's led in 7 of the 13 polls since October 1. The GOP has cut the Democratic lead in early voting by only 2,000, but this could be just like 2012. Barack Obama took the state in the presidential race, and Republican Senator Dean Heller was elected.
So you think Republicans definitely get to 49. The question is, can they get to 51?
Right.
Or 50 with President or Vice President Mike Pence.
Always good to have an insurance policy, though. And look, there are a couple of other races out there, but these are their best shots.
One, who takes the Senate, and do Republicans hold on to the House?
I think it's close to a coin flip, but I would just point out that, you know, there are other prognosticators, New York Times, Charlie Cook, I have a lot of respect for, and they at the moment give the Democrats a slight advantage. When you look at states like Illinois with Kirk, Wisconsin with Johnson, Pennsylvania with Toomey, I thought Toomey was going to come back, but it doesn't look that way in the polls at the moment. So I would look, as Carl was talking about, Missouri, I think is very close, North Carolina. I think Nevada is still in play, and Indiana, at the moment, it looks like Todd Young has taken the lead, but I would never, ever turn away.
And that's a Republican state that the Democrats are trying to take with
Evan Bayh is trying to come back. So what you get is a very tight race right now.
All right, let's turn, because we want to ask you for questions for the panel, and we got a bunch on the